Hello my friends, it's good to see you again. Easter is over and with that I suppose it's about time for me to kick things back into action, make a couple of new videos, and one of those being this one in which we will discuss about dark rifts. This is a topic that I avoided for a while because I wasn't sure how to approach it. I've seen videos talking about money per hour from dark rifts and values similar to that, and I wasn't sure how to approach it because you can't really reliably grind rifts for experience or for money per hour or anything like that. They just simply spawn randomly and you get a box out of them, which again gives you a random reward. So naturally, over time I collected a bunch of footage. Over the past, let's say 1.5 months, I kept on recording all of the rifts that I did during the NA series and the ones on EU, and in total I got 67 rifts done. I placed all of them in an Excel file, did some basic math I suppose, or Excel did the math for me, and with that we can discuss about them in a somewhat, it's just simply a conversation, that's what I'm going to say. I mainly approach them in the terms of how much money you can make per 12 rifts, which is the most that you can actually stack up, and maybe money per each individual type of rift. So yeah, let me begin because I didn't know how to begin the video and it's already long enough in terms of introductions. For those of you who actually have no clue what rifts are, you can find them on the bottom right of your game. I mean, everyone knows what dark rifts are, but just to get out of the way the basics, you can stack up a total of 12 rifts at once. That's how many you can have opened, and you cannot have the same type of rift twice. There are 12 different bosses that can spawn as rifts. 4 of them are normal level rifts, 6 of them are hard, and 2 of them are very hard. Most people recommend you to only do the hard and very hard rifts because those are the most rewarding, but I would simply say do all of them. How I learned over time that is best to do dark rifts is to not rush them at all and just simply let them stack up. Once you have stacked up at least 10 rifts, normally I do 11 or 12, then you can just simply do all of them at once, and once they actually stack up it's probably going to take you 1 or 2 weeks to stack up 12 rifts. In all of that time they are going to degrade, and degraded rifts don't lose any drops. Initially I thought that once they degrade, the loot itself is going to degrade as well, but it's not. So once they degrade, the boss is going to be easier to kill. That's the only thing that will change, and this is actually very important because in my opinion, as I said, the best way to do this is to stack up at least 10 rifts, maybe 12, and do all of them in 1 hour to 1.5 hours. That's the average. 1 to 1.5 hours is going to take you to do all of them if you actually ride your horse manually to all of them and not just simply autopath. Now, I don't think I'm going to have time in the video or have proper placement, syncing the video with the audio to actually show all of the 67 rifts. The first 33 of them, you will see them on the chart in a bit, are just simply done randomly. I just simply did one rift after another, sometimes as soon as they spawned. After that, I have 3 different sessions in which I basically, the first one I did 11 rifts on my wizard, all of them at once. Those 11 took me 55 minutes to do in total. I excluded the Ancient Puturum boss, which is a very hard one. I excluded it because it spawned at Fogans. This is probably the worst position ever because it's the only boss where you will have to travel a lot through the desert and you will lose a lot of time doing that. So I just simply excluded it and did 11 rifts like that. The second session is 11 rifts, again done at once on my Meiwa on the NA account with much lower AP. On my Meiwa it took me actually 2 hours to do the 11 rifts, so twice the amount of time. and the third session was 12 rifts, basically all of them, 4 normals, 6 hards and 2 very hards, and it took me 1.5 hours on my wizard. Again, the ancient Puturum spawned on the focus area for that one as well, but I felt like doing it just to see what my time would be for all 12 rifts. I think those 3 sessions will play in the background on the video. I will add those, and the rest, if there's time, I will maybe show the random 33 ones. So for the Excel file, you can download it in the video description and do with it whatever you want. I tried to basically do the math for, as I said, money per rift, money per 12 rifts and so on, but if you yourself can figure out something else that you can do with the data, feel free to download the file and update the values. So let's talk about it. The Excel file, I used the marketplace prices from EU. I'm kind of back to the EU server, and so for every item that drops, I used the Europe marketplace values. You can again change them if you play on a different server and feel like the values in this video are not actually accurate. Using those values, I basically made this chart where I kept track of every single drop from every single rift in terms of memory fragments, dust, blackstones, and then after that what type of accessory I got from the box. Using that, the first bit of math I suppose would be these 3 rows where I'm showing how many rifts I did in total per each type. So I have 21 normal rifts, 34 hard rifts, and 12 very hard rifts. And then the total amount of drops for each type of them. Not sure if this is going to be very relevant for anyone, but it's still there. The second row is the one that I personally was actually interested in. So it's basically how much money I made per each type of accessory in total from every type of rift in particular. So for normal rifts, I made 28 millions from memory fragments in total. Dust, I made 14 millions in total. The dust price is basically taking out the 1 blackstone and then dividing the Khafra price in 5. That's how it made the dust value. Basically overall, in total, how much money I made per each individual type of drop. For Chrome stones, I gave them the basic 2 million value because you will obviously be keeping them and at some point in the future use them to maybe go for TET or pen attempts. That's what the money values are for, and these 2 columns on the right side of the chart are actually the ones you should pay attention to. The first one, money per type of rift, the total amount of money I made from each individual type, normal, hard and very hard, and then what I would consider to be a somewhat decent average, I guess, just the combination of the 67 rifts. I made about 13 millions per each normal rift on average, 14.5 millions for hard rifts and 26 millions for very hard rifts. Not sure if the 26 millions is normal or slightly higher than it should be, because I only had 12 very hard rifts to get a base out of, so it is what it is. The very last 3 rows are the average values, which I basically only made these for the memory fragments, dust and blackstones. Basically the drops that you get outside of the chest. I was interested to see what is the difference. So normal rifts apparently will drop you always 1 memory fragment, you will never get more than 1. For hard rifts, it's about 1.5 memory fragments on average, so I suppose it's between 1 and 2 memory fragments for hard rifts, and for very hard ones I got 2.17. If I look on the chart, I don't think I ever saw 4 of them drop, so it's probably between 2 and 3 memory fragments drops for very hard rifts. Blackstones, about 5 on average for very hard rifts, 3 on average for hard ones, and 2 or 2.5 for the normal ones. So those are mainly the averages I was interested in. The accessory averages are pretty irrelevant because I didn't get enough of them. I would probably need a couple hundred, maybe 500 of rifts at the very least to get a decent average, but this is what I have. One last thing that I want to mention, actually before that there's the money per 12 rifts and money per hour. I forgot to mention these values. These are probably what most people will take on face value and will use to describe rifts. So as I said, the most efficient way to do them, at least what I learned, it might be different for you or your class, is to do 12 of them at once. The bosses will never be repeatable, you will never have 2 red noses or 2 pegs, so in total I just took the column with money per rift and I multiplied by 4 the one for normal rifts because you will only get 4 of those, by 6 the average money per rift for the hard ones, and by 2 the very hard rifts because only 2 of those will ever spawn. And that gives me 191 millions per 12 rifts from my average, which is, arguably not very accurate, only 67 rifts done in total, as I already said. Using that one, I just simply divided it by 90, which I believe most classes will be able to do all 12 rifts in about 1.5 hours. On my wizard it takes me between 1 hour and 1.5 hours, so it should be around that time. So assuming that you can do 12 rifts in 1.5 hours, your average money per hour would be 127 millions, which is actually totally fake because you cannot really grind money per hour with rifts. But let's assume that you can actually stack up 12 rifts in 2 weeks. In that case, you would make 127 millions per hour doing rifts, but the value that is actually relevant is money per 12 rifts. So let me conclude this video because, as I said, it's a weird topic. I don't know what to say. Money per hour, money per rift, money per 12 rifts. You can take whatever you want. As I said, the Excel file is in the description. If you can figure out how to describe this better, just do the math in Excel and be happy with that. So to conclude the video, I would say you can, with average luck, expect to get 12 rifts opened in 1 to 2 weeks, probably 2 weeks by the time you get 12 of them. I would recommend you to let them stack up until they get to 11 or 12, and then when you do all of them in 1.5 hours, you should be making over 150 millions. That's pretty much all I can say about them. I didn't mention that for those 3 runs I tried to make a reasonable path throughout the map. For example, starting in Camasilvia and ending in Valencia or vice versa, just to not have to return with my horse on a very long path just for one single rift. Oh, and very important to mention, most people will care about this, only the last 23 rifts were done after the patch where they added the cronstones to the box loot table. So the rifts before that were done before there was an option to drop cronstones, and only the last 23 of them were done when I could actually get cronstones from those boxes. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, that concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and maybe you are a new player. I have no idea. It's probably the last time I'm going to talk about rifts because I have no real intention to add any more of them to the chart, basically to keep track of my future rifts in the future. So yeah, this is going to be the end of this topic for me. I will see you in a different video, and until then, stay happy and bye.